Just want to make a quick comment on the chairwoman's questions to the panel in regard to the BB&T and SunTrust merger. I guess it would be my opinion that you should gather all the appropriate information, have as many public hearings as you think are necessary, gain as many comments as possible, and then make an appropriate decision. But the thought that I want to go through the process, maybe like how we build roads, where it takes 5 or 10 years to get an approval, I don't think that should be your model for approving mergers. Get the information, make a decision, and I trust that you all are doing that. But in regard to the chairwoman's comments in regard to consolidation, I agree with that. That's happening all across rural America. And you start to move decisions out of small communities that were vested in those communities, and decisions are made in some further off town, and I don't think that serves our communities as well. We tried to lift the burden on small community banks with S-2155, and the chairwoman voted against that. Many of my colleagues across the aisle voted against that bill to help small community banks, and I was disappointed in that. I didn't think it was a perfect bill, but the credit unions and the small bankers all were in our offices saying how important that was to lift the burden off their backs. So I just want to make a comment on that. But Mr. Quarles, quickly to you, obviously we have a private sector faster payment system. You're working on a FedWire. It seems like the innovation has happened in the private sector with regard to faster payments. If the Fed steps in with FedWire and we start to have some competition, I don't see how that plays out. Why not just let the private sector take this? Or what role do you see with FedWire? Thoughts and opinions?
I mean, we're considering whether there ought to be a role for the Federal Reserve in the faster payment system. We've received a lot of comments about that. As you've said, there are strong reasons to want the private sector to be the area where there's innovation, and we have seen innovation there. If the Federal Reserve were to have an offering in the faster payments area, there are statutory standards that we have to meet to ensure that it would be on a level playing surface with the private sector. But no decision has been made, and we're considering the various comments that have.
I should correct myself, the Real-Time Settlement Network. Do you have a timeline on that?
No, we don't have a concrete timeline, but but it's under active consideration how we ought to respond.
Okay, just want to switch gears. We had a hearing yesterday on an Accountability and Pay Act. To the panel, who do you think should set the pay for CEOs? Should you all set the pay for bank CEOs or credit union CEOs? Should the Congress set their pay? Who should set their pay?
I believe the boards of
the board should. Yeah. Anyone disagree with the board should set the pay? And we're trying to look at ratios in pay with regard to the highest paid and the lowest paid. And my concern is that that's used probably to bludgeon banks. And I look at pay and disparity. So what we might look at, what Citibank CEO makes $25 million, a lot of money. But I'll also point out that LeBron James makes $85 million a year. And I imagine the towel boy, and you look at the pay disparity there, it's pretty extreme. George Clooney makes over $200 million a year, right? And I'm sure the PA on the set and the pay ratio is extreme. Aaron Rodgers, a great Packer, around $30 million. There's pay disparity everywhere, and I think the point is, don't we pay for performance? Doesn't the private sector say, LeBron James, some will say, we'll argue about it, he's worth $85 million, some will say he's not worth $20 million, some will say he's worth $150 million. We'll debate that, but the market sets his pay. George Clooney, Aaron Rodgers. I get concerned when we want to start playing politics with pay. I believe the private sector, the boards, should compete for the best talent possible, whether it's in their bank branches or it's for their CEO pay, and pay for the talent that the market demands. Am I wrong on that? Or should we start talking about not just CEOs, but also talk about athletes and actors and everybody that makes a lot of money? Mr.
As a lifelong Laker fan, I'm concerned about LeBron's pay. If that's,
Well played, sir. Mr. Quarles.
So I completely agree with that, and particularly as to the level of pay. There is an appropriate regulatory interest in ensuring that incentives are set properly. But that's separate from the level of pay.
And I'm
The
sure Lakers
gentleman from
fans would agree with that too. I yield back.
Illinois, Mr. Foster is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you.